Welcome everyone to the special council meeting of April the 9th, 2024. The meeting is live streamed and recorded, and you can go to the website at www.parrysound.ca. This is a budget meeting tonight, and I'd also like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850, and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. And may I have a mover and seconder for the agenda? Councillor Gillespie and Councillor Keith. And there's no additions to the agenda or anything, so all in favor? Okay, that's carried. The agenda was approved as circulated. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest of the general nature thereof? No? Okay.
I might have, when it comes to the request from the chamber, I'll sit in, but I'm not going to participate in the conversation because it's a bit of a conflict.
Okay. We've got you online and Councillor Borneman online, right? Okay. All right, good. All right, that's good to know. I'm going to start by reading the resolution so we can deal with it right afterwards. It's moved by Councillor Ashford and seconded by Councillor Keith that the 2024 operating and capital budgets be approved and that the budget bylaw be brought forward to a future council meeting for ratification. Okay, so we're going to start with Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, the leadership team is pleased to present what we consider a very responsible budget for council and the public's consideration. It's one that maintains the services that are in town as well as provides for new capital projects in the amount of $7.2 million. The tax rate increase, Mrs. Phillips spoke through that, is less than the rate of inflation. And at this point, I'd really like to thank Ms. Phillips for her effort in pulling this together for the town and all the departments. She's put a lot of effort into this. I'd also like to thank the senior leadership team and all those involved in bringing the budget to this point. Everybody looks at it from the perspective, what are the corporation's priorities, not what are my priorities. So it's really, where's the focus? What's the town's needs? And if it means something that a department would like to have brought forward, but if the corporate priority is elsewhere, everybody's always been very good with that. So we're able to put together a budget that I think everybody supports at the staff level. So I just want to make those comments and turn over to Ms. Phillips, who's got a presentation.
Ms. Phillips, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening, Mayor, Council, and the public. Welcome to the 2024 draft budget presentation. So tonight I'll present the 2024 budget overview and the impact to the taxpayer. I'll show the historical tax rate increases, do a recap of the capital budget, and present the tax supported budget funding as well as by service area. Then I'll highlight some of the overall budget impacts, and we'll work our way through the summary of net levy changes by division. And during that, I'll explain variances and staff will answer any questions. And then council will go through the items for consideration. These items can be brought forward by a member of council or the public, and staff are seeking direction or confirmation for each item. Okay. So the town requires So the tax supported budget expenditures are 18.3 million, and the town requires $426,930 in additional funds in 2024. Service levels are maintained, and this is 1.5% for operations net of growth and 1.8% for the dedicated annual infrastructure levy. The impact to the taxpayer. The taxpayer will pay $50.05 per year, or $4.17 additional per month for every 100,000 in residential assessment. So this is an example using the average home. So this shows how you can convert the impact for your property assessment. So if you divide your assessment by 100,000 and then multiply that by $50.05, you'll get your yearly impact. So in this example, the taxpayer would pay $97.60 more per year, or $8.13 additional per month. Okay, this table shows historical tax rate increases. The operating rate increases have been less than inflationary levels for the most part. And back in July, CPI was 3.2%, which typically sets the low end of the guideline for the operating budget tax increase for council policy. And the proposed operating budget this year is at 1.5%, which is much less than that guideline. And together with the capital levy of 1.8%, it provides a total increase of 3.3%. So a lot of work went into review and revision to achieve that target. Okay. So the capital budget recap, the 2024 draft capital budget includes 16.8 million in carry forward projects and 7.3 million in new projects. So 5.6 million of that's funded from grants, 7.2 million debentures, and 10.5 million from reserves and reserve funds. The levy increase though is 1.8% towards infrastructure replacement as per the policy, council policy. And most of the increase is being allocated towards in-year projects this year due to inflationary and economic factors. Okay, so moving on to the 2024 operating budget. Okay, so this slide shows funding sources for the tax supported budget. So 11.2 million is property taxation, which is 61% of the funding for the operating budget. And the other 39% is supported through grants, user fees, investment earnings, etc. So and then this chart shows the net budget by service area. So it shows that 25% of your taxation dollars go towards external boards, levies, and district services. And then transportation is the next largest at 15% of the net budget, followed by parks and recreation, and then fire protection at 7 and 6.5%.
Councilor Gillespie has a question.
Okay.
And just, my eyes aren't as good as they maybe should be. Is there any chance you could tell us what page you're on and we could follow in the binder?
Sure.
That's a little bit of a distance for me.
No problem.
Make sure your microphones are on too when you.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
right now we're on page 37 and 38 of the budget. So that's those charts that I'm referring to.
I also wanted to just make a comment. It does look like the investment income is pretty high, and I know there's a lot of factors that go along with that. But I also know that the staff is one of those factors, so I wanted to mention it and thank the staff for making sure that we're always getting the best bang for our buck.
Okay,
Can I ask just one thing? Where is the policing in this, which piece of the pie?
it's part of the external, external transfers boards or
Oh.
district services, so it's
Okay.
included within there.
Okay,
But then once we get into, the details of those, you'll be able to see.
Yeah.
Um,
I just wondered where it fit on this
yes,
graph.
it's within that, piece of the pie.
Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, so on to the operating budget impacts, so, the total increase for the operating budget net of growth is 198,000. So 82,000 of that relates to external levies, boards, district services, and that includes, DSAP, land ambulance, OPP, Parry Sound Library, those are some of the, requests that are within that increase. And then the other 116,000 relates to the town operating budget, net of growth. Despite the lower taxation amount needed of only 116,000, though, there are many impacts on the town budget. And the town's doing well to manage revenues and costs, to require only the 1.5% tax increase. So this compares favorable to inflation. So on to this slide, 2024 investment earnings are up by 393,000, and 314,000 of that interest is being transferred to reserves. So reserve balances are increasing, so that the net is about 79,000. And then user fees and other revenues are up within the budget. Those all total to 596,000. Admin fees, recoveries, that's increased by 16,000. So there's reduced funding from reserves required, so 247,000 less this year. And an increased contribution to reserve of 25,000. In addition, assessment growth has generated 483,000, so, or 3.8%, so this is also helping, to achieve the 1.5%. So this is 3 times more growth than in 2023. Some other impacts are, insurance premium increases are still up a bit in 2024 by 500 or 58,000. And there's 100,000 budgeted for short-term financing for construction financing to go towards West Parry Sound Recreation and Cultural Center. And that's estimated at just what's needed, projected to be needed within the year. The 82,000 related to external boards, levies, district services, and then other expenditures, including materials, energy, contracted services, labor. Those add up to about 861,000. So if I add up all of those items in the bottom right-hand quarter, that adds up to the operating increase, or nets to the operating increase required net growth of 198,000, and we'll get into the variances in more detail within the department budgets. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Councilor Ashman.
I just really, I gotta say again, I can't let that last slide go by. It's a super exciting slide to see that if we hadn't had that much of return on our investment and that much infrastructure growth, or that much growth in our community, this would be a lot larger tax increase. And this would not have happened if so many people hadn't been working so hard to make sure that all these things are going forward. So I just want to thank everybody in this room, but also anyone in the community who's been pushing Parry Sound, because I think, like, I think if you took those numbers up, it'd be almost $1 million short instead of just 200.
Many, like, the review of the budget, like, all together kind of adds up to coming up with that extra amount, like increasing revenues, user fees, the growth in the community, and the review of different expenses and everything within department budgets. So all together, that review, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I just add, it's not a coincidence. I mean, these are things that collectively staff and council and as you mentioned, members of the community, working together with a plan and a vision and a direction, and then we see it paying off.
Okay, so I'll proceed through the summary of changes to the net levy, and I'll explain the variances in each area. So the first section is within tab 6 of the binders, or page 101, and that's mayor and council. So the variance there, a bit of an increase to mayor and council remuneration for the bylaw CPI. Also, new counselor training of 5,000 was removed, but that was reallocated, or 7,500 was split evenly amongst counselors to go towards conferences or training, because those costs have increased just generally for travel and gas and all those things every time. So in addition, the strategic plan, that's not in the plan for this year, so 17,000 came out related to that. And each year we put 5,000 towards the elections reserved plan for that. And the IT chargeback is just up 2,555. This is just an allocation based on the number of devices and actual costs each year that gets updated. So on to general government. So office of the CEO. One of the notable variances there is OMPF, so Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund. So that funding is increased by 37,800. And many of the investment earnings are also within this section of the budget. So 281,000 increase here. Salaries and benefits, 52,000 increase. This is just 1.8% for non-union. That's what's happened to date. And the collective agreement negotiations are still underway. Debt repayment. So the debt repayment for construction finance, this includes construction financing related to the construction of the West Parry Sound Recreation and Cultural Center. So 100,000, 120 is budgeted there for that short-term financing. And reserve contributions are increased here, and that relates to partly to interest. 217,000 of that relates to that. And then each year we've been putting towards a reserve for the West Parry Sound Recreation and Cultural Center to plan for operating costs and things related to that. And this year it went from, the contribution went from 100,000 to 125,000 in 2024 budget. So that, the balance within that reserve is a healthy balance to plan for operating costs within the agreement once the center opens. Okay, on to economic development, or, sorry, I think I'm in a different order. IT. Okay, so contributions from reserves, these are just,
Page number is Phillips.
oh, we're on page 109 now. And I'll go back to economic development, just to staying in the same order of the chart here. Okay, so contributions from reserves, 44,000 here is for modernization projects. And those include, document management system, cybersecurity projects, and a few other IT projects that were recommended, from the modernization review that was conducted a while ago, a few years ago. Salary and benefits up 17,000 here.
Mr. Mayor,
Whoops. Sorry. Does somebody have a question?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
it's
is that Councilor Borman?
online. There have been no screen changes since the. Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor. Online, at least for me, there have been no screen changes since page 13.
Oh. Well, I can stop sharing and then reshare, maybe just, should I try that?
Sure, give that a try.
Stop sharing one more time.
You think so?
Yep, stop sharing one more time. And you share again.
I'll pick this one instead.
Sure.
Oh, here.
Go ahead.
Here we go, can you see that there?
Councilor Borman, can you see the change? Councilor Borman, can you see that, has it changed? Can you hear us, Councilor Borman? I'm just going to chat.
So you should be able to see it here. Okay.
Sorry about that. I've got unstable internet, and yes, I can see that now. Thank you.
Okay, all right, good.
Okay, so we're in the IT budget, which is on, page 109. Within the budget, we also have, materials operating expenses increasing 13,000 approximately. This is just market price increases, software licensing costs, and, some of those increases have been offset by a decrease in website maintenance costs of 12,000 and reduction in training in that area of 4,000. Internal recoveries, that's up 10,927, and that's the IT allocation that I mentioned earlier, increasing for 2024. And that gets allocated out to all the departments. Okay, so back to economic development, that's on page 107. Within that budget, many of the variances here are just with, from the Phenom conference happened last year and it's not happening this year, so yeah, user fee revenues are showing that they're down, and other revenues, those relate to the Phenom. So revenues and expenses are both down 111,000, so they've been removed from the budget in 2024. So that's a lot of the differences within this budget. So. And then salaries and benefits is just up 2,221. And the reason why that's lower is just that there was an admin staff that was allocated to economic development, planning and building, and it should all have just gone to planning and building, because economic development has an admin staff now, so there's just a bit of a tidying up within there. IT internal chargeback up about 56 or 2560. Okay, so moving on to development and protection. Tab 8. Emergency services. So this is where many of the pandemic supplies and expenses were occurring. So in 2024, there is less related to that, and the materials that are remaining here, the 5,400 is just for training costs and promotional costs and other minor materials related to emergency planning activities. Okay, on to fire service. So within that budget, in 2023, 3/4 of the year was budgeted for a fire training officer. So there's an increase in 22,000 related to that position in 2024, just being for the full year. And there's an increase of 8,307 for firefighter honorariums, just the CPI increase for the bylaw. In addition, there's software costs for Fire Pro software, 1,300. Telephone costs are increasing slightly. Within repairs and maintenance, it says 16,000 budget towards electric charging station, but there's a correction there, so that should say 4,000 towards electric charging station, and then 5,000 repairs and maintenance for fire vehicles increase related to that. So I just want to clarify that, so I'll update that in the final version of the budget. Increased costs related to municipal insurance premiums. Training costs, miscellaneous materials for the fire vehicle, that's up 11,700. And throughout the budget, costs related to repairs and maintenance have generally been up due to inflationary factors. Legal costs are forecasted to be down by 4,000. There's a leased electric pickup 1/2-ton within the operating budget. And how this works is that there's a corresponding transfer from the fleet reserve to fund that. So that's $10,000. The useful life is estimated at 7 years within our capital planning, but the asset's been in service for 12. So that's within the plan here. And then IT chargeback is up 4,000 approximately. Okay, on to bylaw enforcement. So within this section, the contribution from reserves is down 30,000. So there's a automated speed enforcement project budgeted. The costs were in transportation and the transfer from reserve was within here. So it's just a reallocation so that they both be within the same area of the budget. Outside of that, there's some increased cost recovery for the dog pound within here, 3,650. And some other small variances. Parking fines are expected to be increased a bit by 6,000. Dog license revenues have really been up, but they've increased by 1,000 within the budget. And salaries and benefits increase 16,875. Materials, those increases just relate to training costs, mileage, repairs and maintenance, fuel and other small materials. One thing to note is that there's a new contribution to reserve here for, planning for the dog pound facility, so to do any replacements within the facility. And those transfers to reserve, those costs are shared amongst the municipalities, so that's also worked in here too, like the portion that's recovered by the other municipalities. Okay, on the building department. Building fees are budgeted to be up by 104,758. The increase is based on anticipated building projects in 2024 and the associated revenue due to the scale of the projects. Within this budget, there's a replacement for a 2016 Ford Focus with a hybrid SUV Ford Escape leased through the enterprise program, which we're part of with the trial right now. And
Ms. Phillips,
Is there a
the
question?
screen on the TV is still dealing with mayor and council.
oh, so we're down on the third line from the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So we're just kind of going through line by line, but as I'm kind of
Gotcha. Okay.
flipping through the budget, and then we're almost to the bottom now, we're at building, and we'll do planning development, and I'll just skip to the.
I've been flipping through the detail here, and
Yeah.
maybe that's what was the concern online
Oh, maybe,
as well. Yeah, so they're
hmm.
not seeing this
Like
part.
every page, yeah. Is that preferred?
I guess I'd have to ask them online, because they may be limited on what they're able to do depending on where they are.
Well, for next time, if that's the preferred method, I could kind of share the budget book and then go through as I'm speaking.
Yeah.
Is that?
Councilor, I guess I'm gonna ask Councilor Borneman and Councilor McDonald. Are you able to follow this on another means, or do you need the screen up to go through the individual area?
I have the binder, so I'm able to follow along.
Okay, all right, good. Councilor Borneman?
He's been dropped.
He's dropped, okay,
Okay,
all right, continue on and we'll.
Is the hard copy in the agenda?
Oh, Councilor Gillespie.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Mike.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. Maybe now is not the time to mention this, but I thought I'd bring it up while I see it. I'm glad to see that it's a hybrid SUV that we're leasing. I think that's definitely the way to go.
I agree.
Thanks for going that way.
okay. So within salaries and benefits, there's a new position for a deputy chief building official. So altogether with benefits and everything, it's 71,000 within the budget for this year. And this is to help with proper backfilling for vacations and improved management of larger construction projects which are forecasted. Generally speaking, and activities have been high within the department with all the development. Okay. So on to planning, so we're on page 120 now. Within this area, planning revenues are expected to increase in 2024 by 10,000. Oh, I did. Oh. Thank you. Facade improvement program, so an additional 20,000 is within the budget for that program, which is a 50/50 cost sharing for commercial facade improvements. So the total is 60,000 within the budget compared to 40,000 in 2023. So there's variance for salaries and benefits of 29,000. There's an official plan update project, so within the budget of 135,000 is within this year's budget for the remaining costs related to that project. And the zoning bylaw review is within the budget in 2024. 40,000 is budgeted for this year. And the change in other contracted services is just due to DC project in 2023 completion of that project. Okay, development, page 122. So within this year's budget, the waterfront master plan is included, 160,000. User fees are up by 40,500, and that relates predominantly to Big Sound Marina. So increases for our utility costs reimbursement and other revenues within from that. Investment earnings are up 15,400 within the Smelter Wharf Reserve Fund, so that also gets contributed to reserves. Okay. The contribution from reserves, that is loan payment interest and access road payment per the agreement with the Smelter Wharf, so that change in dollars is just per that agreement. 25,000 is included related to a business case development for the waterfront regarding dock shops, town dock. And 103,200 is included, and it's a repayment of temporary borrowing from the town's capital asset legacy reserve fund towards the funding for Doxy related to Big Sound Marina. So this is the final year of the repayment to that. So next year we won't have to do that anymore, and that will be reimbursed. And then the contribution to reserves is that's just for interest, and each year 75,000 gets put into the reserve for related to the Smelter Wharf agreement. So public works and recreation. Transportation operations. And we're on page 127. And so within this budget is the automated speed enforcement project for improved safety. Salaries and benefits, the increase here is 91,697. Repairs and maintenance. That's increased 52,995, and that's just due to the cost of parts. Costs and facility and surface maintenance, and those areas have gone up related to inflationary economic pressures. The cost of tires has also gone up, so in the budget by 9,000. Insurance costs 7,253. So the GPS ABL cost, so the increase is 14,500. That is the operating costs that happen annually related to a modernization project for improved risk management. Software costs are up 6,400, and this is the new work order system. So maintenance manager software, which is in operation. So that's allocated throughout the areas that will use that for facility maintenance and other services. Energy costs up 4,000. So contracted services here is down, and this is a decline due to by 5,000 for more tree type work being completed in-house as opposed to using contracted services. And then bridge contracted services not needed in 2024, that's reduced by 45,000, which is reallocated to storm repairs needed for contracted services. debt repayment, the interest costs are just declining over time on some of the long-term debt. And that's pretty much that area. Winter control, salaries and benefit increase, just per same as throughout the budget. And then increased plowing costs expected for parking lots of 5,000. So on to storm. Within this area, small salary and benefit increased $5,885. Repairs and maintenance is going down by $13,500. So this is related to repairs that were one time in 2023 for the vac truck to keep it operational. So that's not required in this year. And then contracted services costs are up by $45,000. So experiencing more frequent repairs and maintenance incidents related to storm. And those costs will be allocated from transportation to storm for the year. And waste. So within this area of the budget, there's some changes related to the shift to producer responsibility related to Blue Box. So there's no provincial grant funding related to that within 2024 budget. But there are other revenues budgeted for, so the reduction for grant is $131,000 approximately. And then the other revenues, so $222,000 will be received from producer responsibility Blue Box program. Household waste expense recovery increasing $8,800, and then e-waste revenues reduction of $2,300. So other municipalities, that revenue is up by $11,000. That's household waste admin overhead reallocated here and then increased a bit for 2024 to match with the costs. Salaries and benefits up $18,890. Within contracted services, household waste costs are projected to increase $9,000. And then the town's been experiencing increased curbside pickup costs. So that's planned for 2024 of $68,000 related to increasing fuel costs predominantly. But Blue Box processing costs of $70,000 have been eliminated along with the producer responsibility program. And then other waste disposal charges are projected to increase by $23,000. And then brushing program costs are reduced by $10,000 within the budget. Any questions?
Sorry, Ms. Phillips. The other revenue, the funding for the $222,000 received from the producer responsibility Blue Box program, is that something we could expect every year going forward, or is this just a one-time thing for this year to offset the difference?
Defer the question to Mike Kearns, and he knows a lot about the producer responsibilities.
Through your worship, yeah, we've been talking about it for so long. It's nice to see it come to fruition. So to answer Councilor McDonald's question, it's actually for 24 and 2025. We committed to acting as a contractor for circular materials for those 2 years. Full transition to full producer responsibility entirely across the province happens January 1st, 2026. So beyond these 2 years, we're not sure what the world looks like as of that date.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to municipal office, that's page 134. Software costs up $3,357. This relates to the maintenance manager work order software. Insurance costs up $1,361. Shows contracted services costs of are down 22,000, but those are just reallocated to the finance department where the actual costs have been quoted, so to match with the actuals in the budget. And then, the debt repayments just reduced by 3,735 related to interest declining over time payments. So on to cemeteries. So just small variances in salary benefits, and then repairs and maintenance and other materials are up slightly for 2024 by 6,232, and then insurance costs up 2,546. So on to the Bobby Orr Community Center, page 137.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Keith. That's
Sorry about
correct.
that.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips, if we can just go back to the municipal office there. I'm just wondering, because when I see the roof leaking and I see some repairs that seem to me that would be a little bit pricey, where would they be covered under this operating budget details? Because it seems kind of a small amount, 39,000 under, I think that's material operating benefit, like operating expenses, but I'm wondering where would that be? Like, there's another stairs and the roof leaking, where is that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So there is an amount within the capital budget related to the office. I'm just looking to see how much that is. I feel like it's close to 50, but then municipal office stair replacement, and some other repairs included within the capital budget are about 50,000. So that's a carry forward item funded from reserves.
So that would include the roof repairs?
Does it include some? Defer that to Mr. Kearns to speak on the project.
Yes, through your worship, so the roof that Councilor Keith is referring to, that is included in the $50,000 amount.
Okay, so back to the Bobby Orr Community Center, page 137. So within this year's budget, there is increase in user fees, so that relates to the arena snack bar being operated by the town, and those revenues have been included. There's also some associated costs related to that within the budget. User fees are increasing by 65,000, and those include minor hockey facility and other ice rentals, which have been up. So 20,000 is included for part-time labor within the budget, and that relates to the operation of the arena snack bar. So the other 29,000 relates just to regular salary increases per CPI estimates. Inventory costs are included for the snack bar as well, and that's 20,000, and then cleaning supplies, that's increased, so there's an increase in 9,000 related to that, to match more accurately with like what's actually being incurred. And then insurance costs are up 5,221. Energy costs, that's gone up a bit by 30,000 within the budget for a total of 150. But, so it's gone up about 25%, and that's related to, I guess, cost increases to the energy. Debt repayment, those financing costs are going down slightly, so that's decreased to 10,623.
Councilor Blasky and then Councilor Keith, and we'll start there.
Thank you, your worship. It's probably in here, but I can't find it. So by running the concession booth itself, was there a small profit for the year?
No, I believe it would be a bit of a deficit to keep it going and have staff complement at the snack bar is people online.
How much would that be?
Okay. $27,000, it looks like.
We lost 27,000.
Well, I have to actually estimate we'll double check actuals, but within here, there's 20,000 budgeted for part-time labor and then 20,000, inventory costs. And also the revenues from the snack bar only about 13,000, so. But at some time, there was a report that went to council related to the concessions. A little bit ago. I have to refer to that.
Thank you, your worship. I'm just, that's a lot of money when we ran it the year before for free, sort of thing.
Outsourced, it was outsourced to the
Exactly, yeah.
supplier.
Yeah, maybe not satisfactory, but it was done. I'm wondering maybe that's something we should be looking at for next year that's a lot of money to have the access to when I think there probably could be better ways to do it or less expensive ways to do it.
Mr. Kearns has a.
Through your worship, so, I think certainly that's something we can look at going into the new year. I think, we did do this a couple of years ago, we went out for, requests for proposals, those sorts of things, so it's a very difficult industry and a very difficult place to make money, because of the sporadic hours, you're not guaranteed a certain number of people moving through the building on any given day. And we're guessing that that's some of the reason we're not seeing a whole lot of interest in taking over that operation. I know people were requesting that it be open more often. We tried to do that this year, perhaps offering a slightly different menu, but again, with that come increased costs of operating and supplying the equipment to do that sort of thing, and then cleaning and all those sorts of things. So there's definitely a cause and effect that happens down there. I think what we're seeing though is it's a very difficult thing to make as a profitable business, and that perhaps is the reason we're not seeing the interest in operating it externally.
Thank you very much. The gentleman that ran it the year before, in discussion with him, he was more than willing to do it again. More wasn't satisfactory, I don't know. From all recounts, I understand he was satisfactory. And he was more than willing to run it again. In fact, he was kind of surprised that he wasn't offered the opportunity to do it again. That was a net zero for the town. For running it, so maybe we don't need to be debating it now, I guess, but I think that now is the time that we should be looking at it for the fall to try and get things set up a wee bit. And maybe we could look at an alternate, or that is a lot of money to run a concession for the winter. I realize it costs a lot to run it, staff's not, salaries aren't inexpensive, and as you say, the staffing's hard to do because you don't know whether the arena's gonna be busy, not busy, and it fluctuates so much. It seemed to be better with an outside operator running it, because he kind of knew that the hours would be flexible and he operated it flexible. I think there might have been, in my discussions with some of them, there might have been some failure to communicate in some areas, but I think it's not definitely. My suggestion would be that we look at it now to get ready for next fall, but maybe we could do something with it, and I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Kearns?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that that's certainly not a bad plan. Having this in place in the budget does give us, it gives council the opportunity to perhaps pursue that option should no other option turn out to be viable going into the next season.
Okay. Councilor Keith?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Cairns, if I could just go back, and it's actually somewhere along the same line as, what we just heard question a moment ago. In respect to the inventory costs, what I heard about is the 20,000. Now, what I'm not clear on is, because the concession stand this year, as I understood it in talking to people that were running the concession stand down there, that basically that stand was operating when there was hockey games. It wasn't like it was operating full-time every day. And, fine and dandy. But, what I understood was, the deep fryers, for one thing, weren't able to be, used for this season. Is that part of that 20,000 that we're looking at there? That's my first question.
Through your worship, so that was my suggestion, that we were probably looking at a different offering in terms of food selection down there. So, those inventory costs would obviously be reflected in french fries, for instance, that would be, purchased for resale as well.
The other thing I should comment, because I remember I was around when there was the discussion the previous time, and council supported where we are right now for the concession stand. I think there was also discussion about, or at least the opinion that when they were operating the concession stand, this is also a goodwill thing for the arena, so recognizing we might not be able to make a big profit, but be able to provide a service that when other people from other communities also come to the Bob York Community Center, they are able to access that. So I don't know how tight, I would agree we need to not be going in major debt, but I think that theory also, I know, came into play when there was a decision, because I remember the comments made. Thank you.
Councilor McCann?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree, it's a service to people, and it sort of enhances the experience of going to the arena to watch kids play hockey or figure skating or what have you. Look at the models in the hospital where the ladies auxiliary run the gift shop and the coffee bar and such, strictly run by volunteers, unless I'm missing something. But have we thought or looked at the idea of if we're not intent on making money on this thing, that we're not, but we're also intent on not losing anything, is there some kind of opportunity that we could put it out there that because someone's always looking for fundraising ideas that an organization could just go in there, buy their inventory and sell it, keep it as simple as possible.
So through your worship, I'm not,
Mr. Mayor?
I know I have been to the auxiliary kiosk at the hospital. Food preparation may prove a bit of a challenge from that perspective. I think if I recall correctly too, last year, staff were working on taking over the canteen. I hate to say in a rushed manner, but we hadn't planned it ahead of time very well because it wasn't under consideration at that time. So, you know, if council is agreeable to it, there may be an opportunity for staff to run through an entire season this year, right from prior to ice in to ice out, and you'll have a much better idea as to how we had some learning curves at the start of trying to staff it, quite frankly, and figuring out what hours it was going to be open and all that sort of thing. So I think staff would be in a much better position this year to run through an entire year and have a much better idea in terms of revenues and expenditures from operating that canteen.
Councilor Boardman, I think, Councilor Boardman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hear what Mr. Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. I hear what Mr. Cairns is saying, and we were slow to get off of the mark with this. So fact of the matter is the loss may have been higher had we been out the gate when the hockey season started. We did lose some of the major revenue generating opportunities with the kids tournaments and such, but this adds money at every turn. We our management people at BOC are having to hire staff, order product, schedule staff, so on and so forth. Miss Phillips' staff is paying bills, paying staff, taking time out of there to control this. So I tend to agree with Councillor Blasky that if there's a way of doing this, of farming that we won't make a lot of money that way, but we won't lose any money that way. So that's my 2 cents. Mr. Mayor, you'll recall, a number of years ago, that's basically why council had made that decision, and it ran fairly smoothly up until the advent of COVID in that manner.
Yep. Thank you. Any further comments on?
Can I add just one thing, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, okay, Councilor McDonald.
Yeah, I mean, I think all things being equal, it'd be nice to see them have a fair shot to go like a whole season in full swing. I know there were a lot of setbacks and issues. They were not able to operate at full capacity with the full menu that was planned. So I think this first year in may have just been a learning curve. It'd be interesting to see how it goes year 2 and then maybe reassess it at that point. But I think it needs to be given a fair shot. And it's nice seeing it operating at regular hours or like consistent hours as opposed to how it was being run before. So there is some benefit in that, some consistency.
Councilor Blasky.
Thank you, Your Worship. The problem with the arena, it can't be run on a regular basis because depending on ice rental, depending upon scheduled hockey and everything, so the hours need to be very, very flexible. I think I just told us now, but now I'd like to make a suggestion that some sort of business plan comes forward from staff. I know you've got lots of work now, you don't really need more, but maybe some sort of business plan to come forward to look at it both ways. I know when I talked to Mr. Kearns about this a couple of years ago, I had mentioned that maybe looking at a community group, like Rotary or, different community groups in town, if they would run it and we wouldn't make anything on it, but we wouldn't be losing the money or spending the money that we spent this year. And they would be keeping the money for a fundraiser for them or whichever, and they're good for our community. So I'd like to maybe see that looked at as well, and maybe, I know it's hard when you put it, I know there's been a few occasions where the town has wanted things done and they put out an RFP with absolutely no response. But then they got rather into it and actually did get people that were interested in it, so I think we should put this kind of forward on our agenda for now, to try and look at it and get it a business case scenario for either way and look at all possibilities before the season gets too far in, because I know it peaks up pretty quick.
Okay, so I think that's a good suggestion. So if you can move that as direction and we get a seconder. Councilor Keith seconds that direction. All in favor of that direction? Okay, that's carried. All right, so putting that, we can move on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Parks and Recreation, page 139. So recreation program registration revenues are up 7,000 and user participation is up. So Canada Day revenues up 2,100. That's for vendors. Rent and financial revenues up 4,825. This relates to ball field registration. contribution from reserves, so that's down, that's just due to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan completing in 2023. Salaries and benefits, there's one additional lifeguard within the budget, so 8,000 related to that. Other than that, those are just typical salary increases within the budget overall. Boots, clothing, uniforms up 3,000, just rising costs. Software increased 3,357. This is the allocation of the work order system. Minor equipment, furniture, that's a decrease of 3,000 related to light up the park enhancements were completed in 2023. Vehicle lease costs are up a bit, 4,779, just due to being budgeted for the entire year compared to 2023. Contracted services costs, that's down, that's just due to the Parks and Recreation Master Plan having been completed. Entertainment costs are up for Canada Day by 6,000, that relates to the cost of fireworks and due to inflation and economic factors. IT internal chargeback, 3,652, it's just the increase, regular increase allocated throughout. So then now we're moving on to the finance budget, page 143.
Mr. Mayor, before we leave Parks and Rec,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Barnwood.
Ms. Phillips, pages on this thing, and I cannot see from where I am any cost in the Parks and Rec budget about hanging flower baskets in the downtown. Is that within that budget, or where will I find that?
For you, Mr. Mayor, it's actually within the transportation budget. So there's 12,000 budgeted for flowers for the downtown. There's a downtown streets cost code within the transportation budget, so that's where those costs are.
Okay, thank you. I think my question then is for Mr. Cairns probably, or Mr. Bonanza. I see he's online. And my query is, the past few years we've had difficulty with staffing and maintaining. One year it's too hot, one year it's too wet. We invest a lot of money in these things on an annual basis, and the return that we get isn't really commensurate with what we're putting into this. We've heard from Miss Bosshart and others that we need to, be putting our money into hardier species of plants and doing more planting of annuals and whatnot. What are we getting for this $12,000, Mr. Cairns? Is it the same past few years that haven't survived the summer season?
Through you, Your Worship. I'm going to suggest that we don't normally look at annual plantings in the hanging baskets. They're annuals, not perennials. So they are always annuals that are in the hanging baskets. The baskets all have their own water reservoir. And I do have to admit, climate is an interesting thing to try and deal with. So staff try and adapt watering schedules depending on temperature, sunshine, the amount of wind has a big impact on those hanging baskets as well. So they're a bit of a tough one in terms of the gardening world to manage. I'm going to suggest it should be similar. we do look for hardy species that are drought tolerant and they're obviously full sun for the most part in those hanging baskets. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of options in terms of hardier, but we can certainly look at that and take the suggestions from the professionals. If I remember correctly, our hanging baskets at the end of summer into September certainly dwindle quickly, but that's typically when ice season starts back and the Parks and Recreation staff head back inside to fire up the ice plant in the DOCC. So and we need to remember that we have the same staff doing the outside Parks and Recreation as we do in the inside facilities use. So typically we scale back right towards the end of August, and that's seen as kind of the end of hanging basket season, and sometimes our seasons extend well beyond that, and unfortunately, perhaps some other places have different ways in which they manage those, so they look a little different heading into September if it's a particularly warm year.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to suggest that we monitor this more closely maybe than what we have been in the past. And that so that we can at least consider transitioning to spending more money on street level plantings. What I hear from people are the gardens that have been developed, the plants that are being planted on the streetscaping that's being done is proving to be pretty hardy, pretty attractive, and a draw to the downtown. And I think that if we need to have the facts about where we spend the money that we're spending, and so I'd ask that we monitor better the survival rate of the hanging basket program. Thank you.
Council McCann and then Council Keith.
I think that it's a good idea to monitor the program and to see what we can do better. I wouldn't underestimate the value of hanging baskets. If you drive through towns like Bracebridge, Port Carling, the town's beautification owes a lot to its hanging plants that you see along bridges and the street poles and such. So, and I'm sure this is not a new idea, and I know that we put bids out for flowers every year, but maybe there's some opportunity we can discuss with other communities what they do. If they're experiencing the same difficulties that we are with our plant survival and what they may and who they may be buying their plants from.
Okay. Councilor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I would add in the monitoring, I would think it would be great also if there's discussion with the Downtown Business Association, because I know that I have spoken to some of the business owners who said some positive things about the hanging baskets. So I think the idea of monitoring, getting more information is a great idea.
Thank you. Just some of it is location too. There are certain spots where it is so intense with the sun that it doesn't make any sense to put a hanging basket there because they dry out too quickly. And maybe we need to take that as part of the monitoring to find out what locations are working the best and what aren't, and going from there. Okay. Good on that one.
Okay, so on to page 143, finance. So within this section, there's a reduction in levy revenues there, and this relates to 2023 was a high year for supplemental taxation with a condominium and 43 units coming onto the tax roll. So there's a bit of a reduction to average levels of supplemental taxation revenues. And then in 2023, we tried to recruit NOHFC intern for asset management coordinator, but we weren't able to get anyone. They have strict hiring where you have to be out of school only for so long and things like that to qualify for the internship. So the revenues related to that are, not included in the budget for 2024, so 35,000. And then, but still we have, asset management deadlines coming up, so the asset management coordinator, position still included in here in 2024 to try and meet those deadlines. And also, in 2023, there was a contribution from reserve related to insurance claims, and replenishing a claims legal reserve by 200,000. That related to insurance, our insurance provider increasing like deductibles required. So we wanted to maintain a reserve. So we transferred money from the general working reserve and then transferred to the insurance claims legal reserve. So that's part of the differences in those accounts. Also, in addition, in 2023, there was a financial analyst project accountant role, and 60% of that year was budgeted in 2023, so 40% of it, or 40,000 is coming into the budget in 2024. Insurance cost increases of $7,286, sorry, pardon me. Another thing within the budget is there's a project related to the asset management plan and updating facility condition assessments within the budget. And 40,000 was budgeted, but an increase for that is required of about 40,000 due to, I guess, all the quantity of our assets and the assets that we hold will require 80,000 for that project. So that's within the 2024 budget as well. And administrative support charges for land ambulance, POA, water, wastewater, those are just their increased revenues of 13,409 within that budget. And yeah, fines and penalties are up 5,000, just related to updated forecast. Any questions?
Sorry, Councilor Lewski.
And I'm sure you've got it in this document, but I have difficulty locating it. What percentage or what dollar value did our tax rolls increase this year?
So
It's
three.
easier. I'm sorry, it's easier to ask you than it is for me.
Oh, no problem. So taxation generated from assessment growth was
Assessment growth, yes.
400 and 483,000, and that was a 3.8%. Just can't zoom in on that screen, just 1 second here. I think it is 3.8%, so I'll just double check that. Got that right. Yeah, 3.8%, so. Yes, and that's about 3 times what it was in 2023.
Thank you. So then about $500,000 additional tax roll. That's
Yes.
very good. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to external levies, boards, district services, so on page 149. Or, yeah, 150. So it shows provincial grants are going up by 58,000. That relates to, what is it called? Prisoner transportation grant related to OPP, so related to that service. And the other municipal revenues in here showing for 315,000 that relates to the providing services at the area industrial park. So there's associated revenues that match those, or revenues and expenses that match
Ms. Phillips,
within here.
maybe we could move that screen one to the next. Which would. Sorry.
There we go. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, my thing's not up. Okay. So also the health unit levy has gone up about 5,572. The town's contribution for land ambulance, that increases 18,241. Belvedere's levy is actually decreased for 2024 by 14,690. The district social services, that's gone up 3.87% or 12,799. The library's requested a increase of $38,907. And the library and museum, that'll come up later for under the items for consideration. And museum increases 2,000. The contribution towards the Stockton Center remains unchanged for 2024. OPP levy is an increase of 73,578. And the number of properties went from 3,477 to 3,547. And the calls for service increase about 2.5%. Increasing after the pandemic, I suppose. But the main cause for the increase is just related to the number of properties increasing because they charge based on the number of households. So within the year. And there's 1,000 budgeted towards the new police services board. So and then a small increase to the impact property assessment levy of $2,528. Any questions related? No? Okay. So this is the section of the budget where there are items for council consideration. So the lines that are green, those are actually already included in the budget, so they just require confirmation from the council. And then the lines that aren't shaded green are the change or increase isn't included yet. So council could choose to include them, and then the tax rate would change by a percentage in the section, the column second to the right.
Okay, just that.
And this is on page. Found it, 45? 45. Yeah, under tab 5, page 45, within the budget book. So, and there's supplemental material behind the charts that were received from each of the requests for council to refer to. Would you like me to just go through each item and mention it?
Yeah, so you're gonna start with number one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Increased contribution to the public library. So that request is 38,907.
Councilor Ashford.
I can't believe I'm saying this, and I saw the breakdown there, with the furnace and everything, but it's a big increase. And it's a great, we really need it. But I don't know if there's an option that we can be any more conservative on this to say, you know, like, can we cut back on the books this year, because we gotta deal with the furnace and the wage equity, that's really, like, so it's really important things, but is there something we can ask to kind of get it a little bit lower? Or does anyone else think that, or I don't wanna say no at all, how do you say no to kids and books and things like that, right? But at the same time,
I was wondering if we could do 5,000 a year for books, over 3 years. Cause I think it's about a $15,000 ask or whatever on that. If we did 5,000 over the next 3 years on books, hopefully that would help. So, but that's up to council to decide. Councilor Chan?
Sitting on the library board, I know everybody's got their own wants and needs. The library building, I would remind council, we have a unique situation in which the building belongs to the board in a lot of municipalities across the province. Town owns the building, and the town becomes responsible for it. I know that the board's been struggling, as is everyone else, with funding, and I know that the 38,000, I guess I should have brought my library notes with me tonight, but is definitely needed. It's worth asking them if Mr. Merrick suggested is worthwhile. But I know there's been a lot of infrastructure costs and maintenance. There's just a lot that building needs tended to in that building. Along with operations and such that, like everybody else, costs just keep going up and such. So it's not, I would not say that it's a liberal ask. I would say that it's, they've been conservative in their approach, that they probably could have used a lot more, but I think that, speaking for the board, this was something that they definitely needed to keep their head above water.
Councilor Ashford?
what about maybe 7,500 for the next 2 years for books? Put a little more out there and see if that makes a difference.
Well, I think we're covering the capital portion of it. It's just whether, the books could be spread out over a period of time. We're trying to maintain the building, make sure that's running well. And if they could, over the next 3 years, do 5,000 a year for books, I don't see where that's something. Anyway.
It's a lot more than just books, so, I'm sorry, so, instead of the 38,000, you're suggesting an amount? You mentioned 5,000
It's
every year.
10,000 months.
I'm confused.
Okay, so we're covering the work that needs to be done on furnaces and all that kind of stuff. But what we're doing is we're spreading the $15,000 ask out over 3 years for 5,000 each year. So this year would be 5,000, so it would be $10,000 less than that number that you see right there.
Okay, it certainly can't speak for the board, but it's council's purview to decide on that.
Councilor Keith?
I think that's a fair suggestion, direction. I'm willing to move for that. So then the amount would be basically the 28,907. Yeah, so I'm willing to move for that.
Okay. Is there a second? Councilor Ashford? Okay. Any further discussion on that amount?
Good answer.
Okay.
Wouldn't mind having a recorded vote on this one. Actually, I'll rescind that request.
Okay, you don't want to do it now?
Yeah.
Okay. They're still getting money for books.
Yeah.
Just
I have to face the board tomorrow morning.
Well, they're getting all of their other stuff.
Yeah.
They're getting money for books over this year and 2 years from now. Okay, instead of one lump sum. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything from anyone online? No?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Councilor Boardman?
again, I'm having difficulty with Miss Phillips' presentation. No fault of hers. I'm sure it's something that I've done or not done on this end. But I'm wondering if she could tell me what the total is with all of these requests that council's gonna what the impact is
For the
on the
library,
budget?
for the library alone?
No, the total for all of these, yes.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, so the total of all the items in the list is $106,387. So this would add, 0.807%, so almost one, well, 0.8, so that would be like 3.3 plus 0.8,
2.38.
4.1.
Thank you, Ms.
4.1.
Phillips.
Okay,
Yep, and then for the library, what they've requested, there's a bit of a difference on my line item compared to their presentation, and it's only because, last year they had a capital portion that was in our capital budget, but anyway, I'm getting into the detail. So this request on here is for 38,907, so it would have changed to 28,907 for the mayor's suggestion, I guess.
Councilor Gillespie?
Thank you, your worship. Mr. Phillips, the last number you gave there was 106,387,000. That's everything that's on the list, including the ones that are already in the budget. Like all,
Yes.
that's including the green.
Oh, yes, right, including the green.
Okay.
So I can get you that other number, but
What would just the white be?
so it's 0.33 or 0.34, so. So it would change the budget to 3.64, including capital and everything.
Thank you.
Right, sorry, how much was that again?
It would change the budget from 3.3, including capital and everything, to 3.64.
Okay, all right. So, okay. All right, so we've got that out of the way. We do have direction about the library amount. So we need to vote on that. All in favor? Okay. That's carried. So that's down 10. Go ahead for the museum, the next one.
So 2,000 is the request, the increase.
Mhm. Any comments? Okay, we're going on to number 3 then.
Okay, number 3 is the increased contribution to the Chamber of Commerce, which is, so the last year's contribution was 5,000, and the increase is 2,980 is what's requested.
Councilor Donald, John?
He said he was gonna sit in, but not say anything.
It's just quite a jump. Yeah. Any? Councilor McCann?
No, Mr. McDonald did announce that the chamber is moving in a month's time to I guess, a better location to serve their needs up at the Canada College. I imagine they might see some increased costs in moving and such, and they'll have room to do more things that I'm sure will cost more.
Councillor Key?
I was just gonna suggest, as it does seem a little high, why don't we just round it off so it's 2,000?
You suggesting that?
Yes, I mean that.
Is there a seconder for that?
Can I provide a little more information?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to provide a little bit more information because there was some within the letter which said that the request was to change the formula from of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So within the letter, there was information provided where there was weighted assessment and then membership and the permanent population to come up with the new formula. So I just wanted to make sure that council knew that that formed part of the request, but proceed.
Councillor Gillespie?
Thank you, your worship. I do sit on the board of the chamber, but I'm a non-voting person, but they are going forward very aggressively with a lot of changes. They're doing a lot of good things on the board. Very, very good plans. They've increased the membership. They're very active in the community. You see a lot of things going on. There's the bowling and so on and so forth. So I know that's a big ask, but I think I'd support it. I don't think I would support it. The way it is.
I guess my question would be to you, so we're a non-voting member. Are the other municipalities non-voting members?
Your worship, I believe all the other municipalities are non-voting. I know that when it comes to a vote, there's only about 1 or 2 people that can actually vote.
Okay. Good enough. All right. Councillor McCann?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think this council, our staff actually done a great job in keeping taxes, potential rate down as you look at what's happening in cities and towns around us, and I think we're doing okay. You know, $1,000 today is nothing. So, you know, here we are with the amount of that this is going to add to the end of the rate. I think talking about $2,980 is, how much is that really in the big scene? I vote for this amount. I would agree with Mr. Gillespie.
Councillor Ashton?
My concern is mostly just that, this number, the increase for us is based on permanent population as opposed to assessment value. And I would say maybe a better way to look at this is people who are being served by the chamber, as in the consumers, that amount is goes back to the assessment value, not to the permanent. Just because Parry Sound has more people who live here all year, it doesn't mean that people who live here seasonally aren't getting benefits from the chamber. So I'm not saying they don't need the total amount, just Parry Sound share seems to be pretty high just because people are here an extra 3 or 4 months than the other townships.
Well, I think maybe a discussion for another time, but anyway, so everybody's good with this amount then? Okay, so we move on to number 4. I'll make one comment on this, is that DSAB does donate to this program, the nutrition program. So, and that's municipal money that goes towards this program, just so you know. Councilor McKenna?
How far widespread is this? Something that's in all of the schools in the,
Parry Sound High School.
I'm sorry, okay, right. It's in Parry Sound High School.
And like I said, DSAB donates more than $1,000 considerably to this program, just so you know.
I might just ask them, when they approached and asked for this amount, was there a particular reason or some project that they had in mind for this?
I know the one thing that struck me after I found out, after we donated $1,000, we found out that DSAP was donating money to it, was that we were never informed that the DSAP donated money to the program. Which we should have.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask if anyone else is donating to this program?
It's a good question. Councilor McCann?
And did I not see in the,
Why don't we cut it in half and go with 500? And this way, I think if other municipalities aren't contributing, we're showing leadership. We are showing some empathy for those who really need it.
Yeah. There's a second for that? Councilor Gillespie?
Mr. Mayor, Mr.
Councilor Barnwell?
Mayor, I would suggest that we donate only if others are donating.
Okay. I do have one on the floor now, right at the moment for $500. So I'm gonna have to call the vote on the $500 one. Councilor McCann?
Before you do, with respect to Councilor Borneman, that goes against what I was speaking about in terms of leadership. Sorry, Paul. You see, he's not close to me today. I can see what I want.
All right, so we've got one on the floor for 500. I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor of the $500? I got 1, 2.
I only see 2.
Yeah. Councilor McDonald or Councilor Borneman? Looks like it's no for them, so it's defeated.
Well, you heard my suggestion.
Yeah, I heard it. Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councilor Ashford seconds that. Okay. What's the maximum value you're putting on that, Councilor Borneman?
Sorry, Your Worship. It's in here on the sheet that I'm looking at. It says $1,000. So if others are contributing their share, that we contribute the $1,000, and if they don't, I don't think that we should be trying to carry this unilaterally.
So we'd still have to have it in the budget, knowing that others might or might not.
How many other municipalities would have to contribute, Paul? I don't feel like they all do, but maybe Seguin does. McDougal, maybe.
Well, I guess the first question is, are they even being asked to contribute?
I don't know.
So maybe we ask those questions before, and I get it, it's only $1,000, but maybe we ask those questions before.
Muted.
Ms. Phillips.
Within the budget, council has, 30, is it, is the bottom, 3,500 for miscellaneous donations. Instead of allocating it directly to this, we could just increase that by the 1,000, but that doesn't address
No.
the other issue, but. Anyway.
That's right. Councilor Keith and then Councilor McCann.
Well, I was gonna say, and I think when we are going through this budget here, we should be clear. And I think when there's not enough information here, so if there isn't enough information and we already know they got support from DSAB, I think this is something that we can consider for 2025, but I don't think we should be putting down a number when we really don't have all the information and waiting till other municipalities can provide us with that information of them, it just don't seem to me to be appropriate. That's my personal opinion.
So Councilman Can.
So then, with Ms. Phillips, what you were suggesting there, is that the municipal assistance program that you were referring to, or something else?
No, this, through you, Mr. Mayor, just relates to items that wouldn't qualify or be eligible related to that, or sometimes there's current events that are going on that council really wants to support, things like that.
Well, what about the MAP program? Is that an opportunity that we could send this back to them and say, you can make a request through the MAP program?
It's not a MAP program, is it?
It's a municipal assistance program, but, through that, there's eligibility criteria, and I'm not
this
sure
is-
that would make it.
No, this is another program.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just found out a little bit of information that McKellar and Seguin both contributed $500 each.
Did you? Wonderful. So we have something on the floor right now, right? Can't remember exactly what it
Well,
was.
only donate, that council only donate $1,000 to the nutrition program if other municipalities have been asked and are donating their share.
Okay, so maybe we can, if the mover and seconder are willing to modify that we donate $500 to the program because other municipalities have donated $500.
Well, the movers were Councilor Borneman and Councilor Ashford.
So Councilor Borneman and Councilor Ashford, are you good with that? Councilor Borneman?
That's fine with me, your worship. That's fine with me, your worship.
Okay, all right, Councilor Ashford's good with it as well. Okay. All in favor, quickly. That's carried.
So it works up to $500 anyways.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, park to park. Same. Councilor Gillespie?
Yes, your worship, I sit on that board and I'll speak to it if you don't mind. They are being very aggressive. The other municipalities are putting in a lot more than what this ask is here. There's a lot of money being spent on that trail and new bridges and everything in their areas. We're lucky we don't have that problem, but they are spending the money on it. And being that this is the same as last year, I think the council should go ahead and approve it.
Yeah. I think it should be recognized too. Do you have what we spend on our trail? Mr. Harris?
Well, Ms. Phillips is looking at that information. I think we've got, Mr. Kearns has the amount to replace the bridge that we have on our portion of Fitness Trail, which goes to the old town dock. And Mr. Kearns, what's that amount?
Through your worship, 350,000.
How much?
350,000 in the county.
And in addition, there's the other monies. That's just one bridge in one spot. We spend a lot of money on the trail from the border with, well, by the salt dock all the way to.
Thank you very much for the information. That was something I wasn't aware of at all. I didn't realize that bridge was part of us to do.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Kearns, yeah.
Through your worship, since we're on the topic, we do maintain the old rail bridge behind Trestle. That is also part of that. So we have inspections and maintenance obligations last year. We spent $50,000 in the equipment work there as well. And annually, we pay the railroads for the crossing to the north as well, which is a part of that same trail network. So we have an annual expenditure that's perhaps between $1,000 and $2,000 a year just in permissions to cross the railway as well. So they do add up.
Yeah, Councilor Wolasky?
Thanks, I'm just wondering, are you making me aware or trying to talk me out of my vote?
No, 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 no. Just making you aware that even though they do spend money on that, we spend a lot of money on ours as well. We still,
Well, there's an additional 10,000 in there that relates to maintenance of additional materials and things like that within the operating budget, but I'm sure there's other stuff like Parks and Recreation time, payroll and labor that's not just all allocated in one spot. So it's difficult to quantify that, immediately at this time, but there's a lot more being spent than the 10.
it's just if they're trying to make you feel bad, we do pay a lot for what we have. And a lot of people come into town to walk that trail.
I gotta admit, nobody has ever said anything to me about you guys are cheap and won't pay. But I just see what other people are paying, and I wasn't aware of what we were paying.
We're good with the 6, everybody? Okay, that's good. Georgia Nordic Outdoor Activity Center, number 6. Councilor Ashford.
I do think this one does provide a direct benefit to Parry Sounders, and it's almost annoying to me the amount of times people ask me to go with them to go cross-country skiing. So I do have our ratepayers are going to this all the time. There's nothing like it in town with the fat bikes now, right? You got the bike sales coming out of town and people are all over it. I even considered myself purchasing one of these bikes. Didn't happen yet, but it's kind of a big thing. I don't think we can be asking our ratepayers to pay as much as being asked here, but I do think that if we're, from what we're allocating already, is there something we can allocate to that? And what, I don't really have a proposal on what a reasonable number would be, but if anyone does, is there something we could put forward to help support them as they grow their programs?
About 6,000. Do we have a mover and seconder for that? Councilor Ashford and Keith. Any discussion on 6? All in favor then? Carried. Okay. Northern Medical Doctor Recruitment, we've been doing that amount for, oh gosh, I don't know, 20 years or more for that. We're okay with that, right? Councilor McCann?
Well, I know that the hospital is currently trying to find a new surgeon after Dr. Tony retired, and it's not an easy thing to bring people to town. I think the promise of the new pool and recreation center is going to help, but we need somebody there now, so I think we should continue the status quo with this one.
Councilor Gillespie?
Thank you, Worship. I never believed that you hear me say this on this area. If I remember correctly, last year if council feels that I think this is a very important issue. I know I've seen where municipalities have built buildings and everything to bring doctors into rent-free and all that. I'm just wondering if council could see its way through to maybe add just a little bit to that. As Councilor McGann said, we're short a doctor now, and the new team that the government's putting together is going to make the hospital better, and it's important to try and get doctors in there. And a lot of people in town yet don't have doctors, and I think it's important. Maybe a small amount, or I'll support when you got here, but I would ask that it go up a little bit.
Councilor Keith?
Well, I was thinking something the same, how about we jump that up another 2,000 to 7,000, because we realize the importance. And I look, 2010, was the last time, included since 2010, no new requests. Well, we know like everything else is up, so I think it's really important. So I would ask that the amount be now 2,000, that's what I'm moving to 7,000.
Between Councilor Gillespie and Councilor Keith. Councilor Ashford?
Just seeking information, when it says no new request, when I first read that, I thought they mustn't want the money if they're not asking. But in my understanding, it means that, it's not an ask for an increase, or how does it work?
Well, on this, doctor recruitment item, I don't know that they've ever really asked us for it, but just council took initiative to, provide money for to help with recruitment because, getting a doctor is difficult and
Yeah,
to support the initiative, and we've just continued to do it, each year. So, and sometimes we don't receive a new request, but then if we don't put it in later on, if they miss the deadline or something, if council wanted to support it, then if it's not here, we can't give it.
I think the way it started a number of years ago was just whatever you thought you might be able to afford to put into it. And it went out to the area municipalities. I don't know who contributes anymore or not, so. Councillor Keith?
I'm just going to say from my personal experience, I remember some years ago, I went as deputy mayor, where there was an event and it was all doctors, and it was a workshop going on, and I was representing the town. And there were some thank yous at that event, the workshop, but I remember a few years after, because I met some people there, I was up in Sudbury, and it just happened that I met somebody again who had been, one of the doctors had been at the workshop, who evidently remembered me and said really nice things about the town of Parry Sound and the fact that we were supporting them, so it does get remembered.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, DBA. You got it included in the budget? Leave that as it is? You good with that? Okay, all right. Number 10, local bowlers. Councilor Keith?
Just to mention, like, we kind of skimmed over 8, so I assumed everybody was happy.
Oh, the seniors.
Yes, that was the
Oh, okay.
seniors club.
Okay, yeah, basically it's the relief of their taxes, that's, yeah. Okay, we're good with that? Okay. Nobody's opposed to it?
I'm sorry, what did you say? You were referring to what?
I missed number 8.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Oh, yeah, you don't want to miss that.
No, we're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we're good with the DBA, so there's number 10. Councilor Ashford.
I think this one is private, kind of private citizens, doing a hobby, which is a hard, or I don't want to include as a hobby, depending on the level of sport required. So in one sense, it's not something I would speak towards or in favor of, but at the same time, one of the players, Cindy Eagle, I know her to be a pretty amazing person who's doing a lot for a lot of people all the time. And there's a part of me inside that I think it would be so wonderful for her to have an opportunity to go bowl and do something for herself and represent Parry Sound when she's kind of a person who's always helping everybody all the time. So I don't know where that falls. I still think our obligation to our taxpayers there, but I want to put that information out there. I don't know the other bowlers, but if there was a person we were going to support for a bowling tournament, I think she would be the one I would want to in the world.
Oh, we need the screen advance, sorry, Ms. Phillips, Councilor McCann.
I recall when I was making a deputation to Sealand Council last summer that there was another deputation ahead of me, the young lady who was going off into the finals to represent the area, and Sealand was very generous with their support. I think it was about the same as what's being asked for here, and they were more than happy to give it to her. I think we should hear to as well. Again, remind them that as important as hockey and baseball is, there are other sports that we should be supporting as well.
I'm wondering, so there's 3 of them, right, that are going? If we did $1,200 and then they each got $400 dollars. Are we good with that? Hmm? So they'd each get $400. We increased it by $200.
And I'm quite.
Seconder? Councillor Pulaski? Any further comments on that? Councillor Keith?
Yes, I just have a query. Is this big request also being requested of any other municipalities or just Parry Sound? Because I realize when somebody says Parry Sound, in other communities, it takes in a larger area often
Yeah.
than just the town.
I don't know. Councillor McDonald, do you know?
I do believe one of them lives out in Carling and they were going to ask Carling, the municipality as well, but I don't know where it went from there.
Okay, all right. Anyway, we've got one on the table for $1,200. All in favor? Online?
Online, Councillor McDonald.
Okay, that's carried. He's in favor. That's carried then. Washrooms. Who wants to talk about washrooms? Councillor Keith?
I do want to talk about washrooms. And I want to say, just to start with, I realize that there's been some hard work to come up with the figure that is being presented in the operating budget. And that it's, when we're talking the weekdays, we're talking between the months of July and August, with it closing at 8 p.m. But if I just backtrack a little bit, and I think it's important, is that when I look at the strategic priorities, you know, quality of life, where we say, and it's our strategic plan right now, great place to live, work, and play. And so I think, you know, we can't work or play downtown, especially play. If you think of tourism, you think of how over the last few years, with the cruise ships, with the number of people coming from the GTA and local people that are in our community, that are walking about, that need to use washrooms, that it's not just July and August, it's the whole summer. I also think that when you look at the strategic plan, it does say also about enhancing the experiencing of visiting the downtown. So naturally, having your public washrooms, and I realize that this figure includes the other washrooms too, but having your washroom downtown open to 8 p.m. is of benefit when you're walking, because it's not only people are walking downtown to go to shops, but they're also walking and milling around. This is an opportunity and experience to experience the quality of life. And when I also look at the draft Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan of January 2023, it talks about how much is surveyed when we're talking about parks, trails, Wabano Park and Beach. So it tells you the necessity of using washrooms is something that we have to keep in mind. And I think it really is a cost of doing business now in a community that we are also valuing the importance of tourism. So we have to keep that, I think, in mind. And what I'm wondering about is I realize this is the first opportunity for us to extend hours, but I wondered if there was a calculation per month, because here it is 8 p.m., 7 days a week in July and August. And I really think the month of June needs to be included also, because when I get the cruise ship visit list, and I confirm that there hasn't been any changes, certainly in the months of June, we've got the ships not leaving till whatever, 2300 or and also 6 p.m. in June, and then we go on for July, we got 8 p.m. I believe, 9 PM. And actually in September, we got 10 PM, which is the longest period of time they're open. So in this proposal here, it's suggesting like the May 24th, it says, although I do think it should be again, May 17th, because that's the long weekend in May, not the 24th. So from May 17th to Thanksgiving, the idea would be those weekends, that during that period of time, because the suggestion was originally July and August, would be that it would be 8 PM, the washrooms consistently would be open. And I'm wondering, is there, or are there some figures that we could be advised as to what the cost would be 4 months? So at least we could have the washrooms all open in due time.
Yeah, Chief Thompson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, an oversight in the description, it should say May 24th weekend, not May 24th. So that would address that one particular issue. May 24th weekend.
But the long weekend is May 17th.
That's right. That's the May 24th weekend. That's the way we were.
Oh, okay.
So that's very minor out of all the questions that just came up, but just to clarify that right off the bat. Staff put together a proposal here. That's really what it was. What we clearly heard was there was to be consistent hours. With regards to the when, we are sort of stabbing in the dark until this conversation now, because we didn't really have any direction on that. What staff tried to propose was something that we believed was doable in a particular framework of money, as well as that was going to address concerns we have specifically around vandalism. We know clearly vandalism is not as prevalent during daylight hours. So the choosing of the hours and the timeframes were to try to help us coincide with that. We also know that the activity in both the dock and the downtown is more, the community is more active in the daylight hours. After dark, it doesn't become as active in those areas. That's not to say that there's no one out when it's getting dark, but we were attempting to try to scope this into a package for council. So we can't particularly, I can't particularly tell you off the top of my head what this would be on a per month basis. This was sort of like a package deal to present to you. Done sort of on the number of days that would be involved. If I was a little better with math, I could probably quickly, calculate in my head these total costs divided by the days we were talking about utilizing and then extrapolate that to 4 months. If I were to do that, I suspect that using these numbers, we'd be looking at closer to $35,000 or a little bit more. But that is just off the top of my head for Councilor Keith. And also, I want to be very clear is that this is estimated. We are looking at a number of initiatives already to see if we can better provide this service, but I can't guarantee you what that's going to look like in the end. For instance, Mr. Kearns is talking about releasing a new RFP for the cleaning of the washrooms, especially these uptown washrooms. Hoping that we might have a more competitive environment now than the contractor that we're currently dealing with. There's no guarantee in that. We're trying to provide you with a package now that we feel we can deliver. Will we be, we definitely don't feel we're going to be over budget with what we're presenting here. Could there be a possibility we would be under budget? Yes, that might happen. Our package is also premised on the utilization of bylaw staff for closing these washrooms. We know we can do that during the summertime. So as we start expanding outside those hours, we don't have the same access to the part-time staff with bylaw that we do during July and August. So there's a lot of balls in the air, and I don't have all the answers. This was a package that Ms. McNamara, Mr. Kearns and I, and Ms. Kruger tried to put together because there's a bunch of people playing in the same pot here. And if council was very clear with what they wanted us to deliver in terms of those hours, I suspect we could provide, better estimates. But at this point, we were going for the consistency of hours, not necessarily the range of hours. So happy to answer more questions, but just to give you a framework of what we were trying to present here for council's consideration.
So Councilor Keith, I'm sure has a response or whatever, then Councilor McCann after Councilor Keith.
Yes, well, thank you. And, well, first of all, we've heard earlier tonight, I believe there's about 10,000, was it less, in reference to the library ask at the beginning of the request for operations. So that could easily put the public washrooms up to 37.5. Number two, issues like vandalism. I think that we're in a community just as many others are in a community, and we have to learn how to deal with that. I don't think that we can make our decisions based on a fear or the possibility of vandalism. And as for dark, June, July, and August, they're summertime, and it's not likely it's going to be very dark in June time, July, or August. So I think that we have an opportunity. We may not get it 100% perfect this time, but I think, and also I recall at one of our previous discussions, council, actually, I recall my suggestion being, why couldn't the washrooms be open till 10 p.m.? And as a result of discussions, I kind of got the idea that the flavor was to have washrooms, if possible, open to 9 p.m. So I think we have an opportunity here to have, even if we do weekends as our start from what we call the May 24th holiday weekend to Thanksgiving, and we have them closing at 4:30 p.m. That June, July, and August, when we have the cruise ships here, as said, we have a lot of people coming into our community, and I think we have to be sending the message that goes with our strategic plan, quality of life, the enjoyment. This is a place you come and you can enjoy yourself, and I do think that when people have their children, for example, in strollers or little kids, need to use a public washroom, if those are not open, well, it doesn't say friendly, it says move on. So I am asking for that direction to be that the public washrooms be open between June, July, and August until 8 p.m., 7 days a week, with the weekends, May 24th, we call it, to Thanksgiving, October 14th, be at 4:30 p.m. And, we'll just have to look for how we can make it work, because I think we need to be creative, but I think we can make it work.
Is there a seconder for that?
I would second that.
Okay, all right, discussion.
Well, just if I could just speak to the motion, Councilor Keith, you said to 8 p.m. during the summer months, or did you mean 9 p.m.?
Well, I would have really liked 9 p.m., but I'm trying to compromise here a bit.
So I'm just wondering how this is going to work with the management company at the town dock then. So there's there's $20,000 here that's been listed for cleaning. The people that will be working those hours, can they not be doing the cleaning themselves? And keeping in mind that the management also is responsible for cleaning the washrooms on his time as well too. How's that all gonna look and work? I would have figured that the people that you have watching out can do other things while they're on the clock.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the funding here with the additional cleaning is only for the uptown washrooms. I'm hoping to be able to cut a deal with the dock operator to make this happen. So there's no money included here if they want extra money for extended hours. That is simply hoping that we can work out a deal with them that if the town closes the washrooms, they'll still maintain their contract as is. So at this point, there's no additional dollars here included at all for the cleaning or for the contract operator down at the dock. This is only for the contractor for the uptown washrooms and utilizing bylaw staff to close all the bathrooms. Hearing Councillor Keith, the only challenge we might have if there's more money available is the availability of staff to be able to do the month of June. We can attempt to see if we can overcome that somehow, and we'll have to brainstorm about how that could occur. But with the additional funds, there might be opportunities there.
So am I misunderstanding, this is strictly for the uptown washrooms? This does not include the washrooms at the town dock?
That's correct.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I apologize if I'm not being clear. All the washrooms are going to be consistently open at the same hour. What I was referring to is Councillor McCann mentioned increased contractor costs. Those are only for the uptown washrooms.
I understand.
But all the hours would be consistent because that's what council asked for.
Councillor Ash.
I was hoping to avoid this, but I got an embarrassing question. I don't understand the math on how this is working. That if it's, I'm looking up at the top and we're, for example, if we look at the public library, the 38, almost 39,000, and it's a $4.40 increase. Why is it 57.20? And so how does that work? And I apologize, I don't get it on first glance.
It should read $3.17 in that column, but the 0.208 is correct. Bit of a typo there, totals didn't get updated on the right hand column.
Okay, so what's the number?
$3.15 on the right column. That's for 27,500, so if it became 37,500, it would be 0.284, and it would become $4.31.
So we're not asking the average
No.
household to pay $200
Sorry.
a
Apologies
house
for
these
that
washrooms.
error.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll update that on the.
I really didn't get
version.
behind that.
Councillor McCann.
So I know we don't always get what we want, but I was really hoping that the town dock washrooms could be open till 9. Now, what about during the weekends when there is something special going on, like Canada Day fireworks and such? Can the washrooms be opened much later because the obviously are needed? And when you gotta go, you gotta go.
Through Mr. Mayor, sorry, I will qualify that as well. If the coffee shop is open down at the docks for whatever's going on down there, so Canada Day would be one of those examples, they do keep those washrooms open until as long as that coffee shop is open. So generally, it does close by 5:30, and previous years, that's when they were closing the washrooms. What staff heard from council was that the consistency or lack of consistency amongst all the washrooms was an issue. So this is an attempt to create that level of consistency on when the 3 sets of washrooms would be locking their doors closely. So there will be times when there's an activity down at the dock, and if the coffee shop is open and operating, they will be keeping the washrooms open beyond these particular hours. And additionally, that is something that's been built in this as well, specifically for the cruiser nights in downtown, is that the washrooms will be kept open until that particular event shuts down, knowing that it's a draw for people in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? We had a seconder. Councillor McCann, did you second it?
Sure. Actually, could I just say one more thing? We talked about the coffee shop closing and opening the washrooms. Is that a responsibility? I know it's worked out in the agreement with the management company, but is it not the town's responsibility to ensure that those washrooms are open to enhance the experience down? If we're having a town event down there, this is still town town-owned property and facilities. If the coffee shop owner is sick one night and wants to go home early, that becomes our problem then. I'm not trying to be facetious in any way or denounce the coffee shop, but I think to myself that, and I know we're limited with staff people, but again, I was just hoping for that 9 o'clock mark, but I get what you're saying, you can only work with what you have.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the washrooms at the town dock are tied into the operator's contract for the big submarine in the town dock, and it's clear in the contract that we have with them that the hours are going to be tied to the kiosk and what's going on in the kiosk. Right now, that kiosk is a coffee shop. So this is going to require us going outside the contract and hopefully coming to an amicable solution with the operator, because they do have a signed contract with us about that, and it does speak to this particular issue. I think that they're going to be quite happy to work with us on this issue, but I just want to make sure it's clear that these things are outlined in the contract already, and we're going to be going outside that contract to find this resolution. So the way the town has controlled those washrooms is through the operator's contract in the town dock. If I may, Mayor, I do realize you have a motion on the table that you're moving towards, and a lot of this stuff is still up in the air. We're still trying to work with all the players involved in all of these activities. We are not even 100% sure that the contractor here will, be agreeable to extend these hours. We're feeling pretty positive about it, but I just want to be sure that council is aware that this is still a moving target for us as we try to work towards a resolution.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, and just for clarification, with this direction, I had suggested that we have 37,500 rather than the 27,500 that we have here. So we just want to make sure that was included in the direction. And I did have one other question for Mr. Thompson and Mr. Cairns, just for clarification. In the summertime, do the staff that work for Parks and Recreation, do they all close up at 4:30, or is some of them work a second shift, alternate?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we had this discussion when we were trying to, formulate a program, and the collective agreement clearly states the hours of the park staff, and that is till 4:30 in the afternoon during the summertime. So beyond those hours, it would be overtime for town staff, and it would be if people were agreeable to work those hours.
Thank you.
Clarification.
Yeah, go for it.
So, and I wish I'm just looking for clarification on the direction. What I understand is that the direction is that all public washrooms be open the months of June, July, and August until 8 p.m. 7 days a week. What I'm not clear on is the reference to the May long weekend to Thanksgiving. I heard something about 4:30 p.m. or later. I don't know if it's on weekends. That's the part I'm not clear on. And then, of course, there's the addition of the budget being increased from 27.5 to 37.5.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what I heard was that June, July, and August till 8 p.m. Weekends from the May 24th weekend, I don't know how better to describe that, the May 24th holiday weekend till Thanksgiving weekend till 8 p.m. And
Just weekends.
just weekends,
Okay.
and that the proposed budget to work with for staff would be increased to 37.5.
My question to Ms. Phillips is if we add this amount to this here, where are we sitting with the budget? Percentage.
So altogether, it would be 52,180 that's been added in. And then, and that's up 0.40. So we'd be at 3.7, like including capital operating and the changes.
All right.
Your Worship, can I get another clarification? I did hear weekends. Do we mean Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or just Saturday, Sunday?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The weekends would be Friday and Saturday, except for a long weekend, and then it would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I would also like to clarify that we are going to make a concerted effort to ensure that the uptown washrooms are open on the cruiser nights till 9 p.m.
Right. Okay. All right. So I just wanted some clarification so we knew where we were sitting with the budget, and that sort of thing. So I guess all in favor of the last direction on 37.5. That's carried. Yep, that's carried. I think that's everything.
That's everything.
Councilor McCann?
Well, had we discussed number 8 then, or did we?
You left that. It is the way it is.
We're leaving it that way, okay, fine.
Yeah. Ms. Phillips, do you have anything more to?
Oh, no, nothing else to add. I guess I can summarize just that, through items for consideration, 52,180 was added. That's 0.4%. So 3.3% plus that is 3.7%.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor McCann?
Well, I'll add my word of thanks to everyone else for the great work that's been done. We get to sit down here and look at the final numbers. You folks are the ones that spent the time, the hours, the resources, probably a few pots of coffee, putting it all together. So thank you for that. And I think the town's done very well with keeping the ratio where it is. So that's great.
Well, I just wanted to make one last comment because I forgot to give a shout out for my new deputy treasurer, Zach Cousineau. I just wanted to say thank you for his help in preparing the budget as well, because he's not able to be here tonight, but definitely big help in the budget, so just mention that. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to thank staff, Ms. Phillips, you and your team, the rest of the departments and the department heads and their staff for all this. It's not an easy project or exercise, but it is appreciated. And thank you, appreciate it. Thank council for their time and effort in this as well. So, all in favor of the resolution that I read at the very beginning? And that's carried, thank you. And so, I guess we don't have a closing motion. We'll do that in the next one, okay. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council for Town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, April the 16th at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at Town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Stephen Street, entrance via Gibson Street, and will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live stream and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. Your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. And for Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.